Hey, what's going on? It's Chris Westergaard from the Language House. Creating great grammar role plays is just like cooking a delicious meal. You'll need some solid ingredients, a little bit of prep, some materials, and that touch of flair to pull it all off. Great grammar role plays get your students to use your taught grammar point in natural, authentic, and engaging ways. So no worksheets or just writing down sentences or fill in the blanks. Those activities are part of the study phase. We are interested in the activation phase, that real life usage. And guys, I got the right recipe to make these grammar role plays work. If you find all of this lesson planning from scratch a little bit tedious, check out my #1 resource for English teachers, Fluentize. Use my code CHRIS20, get 20% off. There's some information in the description of this video. If you're interested in TEFL certification, check out the Language House. That's my school. We're located in beautiful Prague. We've been around for 20 years. Just Google us. Just Google the Language House TEFL. We show up #1 on Google. We're #1 everywhere. Oh, and of course, if you like this free content, I'm wearing an outfit. I got a pot and a ladle in my hand. It's 90 degrees outside, literally. Your like means the world. Thank you. Here's a little bit of prep for these grammar role plays. #1, you're going to need to know your grammar point well. You're going to need to know the positive and negative structures of it. You're going to need to know the question forms. The more comfortable you are with your grammar point, the easier it's going to be for you to create this role play. So study up on it. #2 is to pull 1 or 2 functions out. Don't try to teach the entire grammar point. That's not going to work. It's just going to overwhelm your students. Instead, pull out just a couple different functions. Function meaning how the grammar point is used. Most grammar points in English have multiple different functions, and if you try to go over all of them in one lesson, it's not going to make that much sense. So just pull out 1 or 2 functions. This next step is the hardest part. Once you have the function of your choice, you're going to need to think and visualize a situation where this grammar point would naturally come up. Meaning, like, when would we use this grammar point in real life? All right, this is going to be difficult for a lot of new teachers because you're just not used to thinking about language that way. But whenever we speak, whether it's arguing with someone or talking about past experience, past habits, future plans, when we're using the affirmative or speaking in conditionals or reporting what somebody else said, we are always using some form of grammar. So try to visualize with your grammar point, when would we use this? Visualize the people speaking, and you will begin to create a scenario where it will naturally come up. You got that? You ready to start cooking? Let's make some good role plays. Oh my God, look at what we got here. A bunch of ingredients to make a successful role play. Whether you're doing a grammar role play or a Lexis role play or really any type of speaking activity, there's about 8 fundamental things that you can add to them to basically guarantee their success. So we're going to go through these really quick, but then afterwards I'll give you about 5 different examples of actual role plays that you can use, and that should illustrate these a little bit more by putting them in context. So let's look at our first bag. What do we have? All right, so the first thing is that you want to have a clear setting. This means put your students in the scenario. We want our role plays to be realistic and to work on skills that our students will be using in real life. So put them at the doctor's office, put them ordering food in a restaurant, put them deciding on what vacation to go to, put them in a scenario where they have to plan a first date. You know, whatever it is, try to think of a fun setting because that's going to make it really engaging. It's going to make it realistic. And you're going to get a lot of natural language just by putting them in these different scenarios. So fun settings really work well. Next thing, and this is oftentimes overlooked by a lot of teachers, is that you want to have a clear task. You can't just say role play. That's not going to work with a bunch of students. They're not going to know what to say. So what I do is I usually task out almost like in bullet points about 6 things that I want my students to do. Do this, 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 and this. Having this is crucial, and you'll get a lot of student talking time by really thinking out the whole sequence of the role play itself. Next is to make it engaging and to even up the student talking time. We want to assign roles to our students. One student is the patient, one student is the doctor. You might even have roles where they have certain feelings and the way that they feel about stuff that will help it. This is also a great way to talk about controversial things because you can assign them beliefs that they don't necessarily agree with, and they can have fun with it because they know that they're not criticizing each other, they're criticizing the character that the other person's playing. So really effective to assign some roles. With your roles comes props, so add a little bit of props. You might think it's silly or go like, oh, they're adults, they're not going to want to dress up. Of course they will. They've come to English class to have a little bit of fun. And I don't mean you need to have like a whole bunch of theatrics, but like a few props here and there will really add that spark. So add some props whenever you can. All right, almost done with bag 2. With your task, it's very important to have a goal/motivation. What I mean by this is that when we speak in real life, we speak for a purpose. Like I don't go around the world just talking and listening to people. There's usually something that I'm trying to solve. So in your role plays, think to yourself, what is the final goal? What's the resolution? What are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to achieve? And this can be, I mean, going back to a doctor-patient role play, yeah, the patient gives a bunch of symptoms. The doctor has to diagnose it and offer treatment, and that involves the doctor needing to listen, right? So there needs to be this taking place. All right, last bag, here we go. All right, it is helpful when you can to add some kind of hook or gimmick. No one likes a bland piece of chicken when they're cooking, right? People like a little bit of spice on that. So this is going to be your spice. Find a way to make the setting, to make the task a little bit engaging. So it could be instead of them planning a date, they have to plan a date with Taylor Swift. Instead of them planning a birthday party, they have to plan a birthday party for Harry Styles. Instead of them just staying in a hotel, they have to stay at the worst hotel in the world. You know, these little gimmicks or tweaks will make the whole role play really engaging. And my guide to this, or my advice for this, is that I want it to be where when they're doing the role play, the more they get into it, the more entertaining it is, right? You don't want to be where everybody's participating, but it's just so boring, right? So think of a gimmick to make that fun. Lower levels like A1 and A2, that's not going to work as well, but as you get a little bit higher like A2 plus and obviously up into like B2, you can have a lot of fun with your gimmicks. Next is while your students are preparing their role play, and obviously when they are role playing, you're going to remove all of the boarded structures. So all of like the grammatical stuff. We don't want our students reading the board or looking at their notes too much, because in real life, the board is not going to follow them. In real life, people are going to ask them questions with a specific grammar point, and they're going to have to respond to them, right? And then lastly, this all gets wrapped up with a clear demo. So what I do to sell the activity and to make sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to do is I will usually pick one of the stronger students in the class, and we will do the role play together. And all of the other students are going to look at what we're doing, and they're going to go, aha, that's what I'm supposed to do. And then I'll put them into their groups or pairs, and they'll do it on their own. So these ingredients are what it takes to make a good role play. Ooh, oh, it's ready. We've got 5 grammar role plays in here. Let's take a look. Using the passive voice with the function of the object being more important than the subject, we are going to make our students tour guides. I'm going to put them into pairs, and I'm going to give each group a few very famous cultural monuments or artifacts. This could be like the Mona Lisa, the Pyramids of Giza, Charles Bridge in this country, the Eiffel Tower, etc. So with their partner, they have to get up and give a tour of these various different things. And the language is going to sound something like this. The Eiffel Tower was designed by, it was created in, it is seen by, it is considered to be, etc., etc., etc. To keep it flowing, I'm going to make sure that the people on the tour have to ask the relevant questions. And the motivation goal is to give the best tour possible. At the end, everybody can vote on which pair gave the best tour. And to get that student talking time, which is so important, I'm going to make sure that in their task that they have to offer at least 7 or 8 facts at a minimum. To make it engaging, we can have them stand up and give the tour while walking around the room. We can have pictures, I can have like a little umbrella for their tour guide. Maybe everybody has some sort of a currency or something that they can give to the best tour. To give you all an example of what I mean when I say picking your function, we can use the passive voice in a totally different way if we want to. Let's take a look at a role play using the passive voice to avoid blame. In this scenario, everybody works for a giant billion-dollar company, and the problem is they've gone bankrupt. You have all of these different departments, and they've all made dozens of mistakes throughout the year. They have to report to the CEO, who wants to know, why did we go bankrupt? The thing is, they don't want to admit blame, so they're going to talk about their own mistakes using the passive, but they're going to blame the others using the active. So yes, mistakes were made, but the advertising department totally missed their goals. The motivation / goal is the CEO has to determine which department is most culpable, depending on how effective they use the passive voice. I'm going to make my students head of tourism for various different countries, and using the comparative and the superlative, and based on a bunch of different categories, they have to convince the other class why their country is better than other countries, and in fact, why their country is the best to travel to in 2025. I don't want them to straight up lie about various different facts about their different countries or regions, but they can bend the truth, and of course, they'll be able to criticize and disagree with what the other countries are saying. To make it engaging, I can always give them like really bizarre and probably not the best places to travel to make it engaging. At the very end, the class can decide which country is in fact the best to travel to. Our students are going on a date, and it's been a really long time since they've been in the dating market. I'm gonna give them a picture of who they are, and they look terrible. There's so many different problems with them. Their dress, their hair, what they smell like, and everything else. And other students have to offer them advice on things they could do, so possibilities, should do, stronger suggestions, and have to do or mustn't do obligatory things. The people that change the most and adapt the most win. And this is a good example of giving people a role, because now they can criticize each other because they're criticizing the picture, right? They're not criticizing the individual. I'm gonna make my students detectives, and using past modals, must have, might have, could have, they're gonna try to solve a crime. They're gonna walk into the room and it's gonna look like a crime scene, and using those two modals, they have to decide what must have happened and what might have happened or what could have happened. The groups that accurately deduce the best factual information win. To make it engaging, I can actually set up the room like a crime scene if I have the time and the means, and if not, I can give them a picture. Going back to the beginning of the video, creating great grammar role plays is all about knowing your grammar point well, pulling out a function or two to focus on, and then creating those real life scenarios where it's naturally going to come up. After that, you just add the different ingredients that we talked about, and you'll have something great.